There you go. Now, in the clash tonight, it came as quite a shock when BBC stalwart John Humphrys recently called time on the licence fee that has kept him in clover for decades. But he was typically to the point, saying, "It has served the nation magnificently, and I write this with a heavy heart. Its time has come. It's simply unacceptable to charge people a fee for something that they may not be using." He wouldn't be the first, but is he right to say this? Of course, he wrote that in his brilliant column in the Mail on Sunday newspaper. And it was the topic of my daily dispatch yesterday. I've got to say a majority of viewers supported my position that it's had its day. But let's speak now to media commentator Paul Connew, who has written a book called The BBC at Nearly 100, Will It Survive? He thinks the BBC and the licence fee can't be scrapped, though he agrees in the longer term there may have to be changes. He's also a former national newspaper editor. Meanwhile, somebody that definitely thinks it's got to go is former Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe, who says it's time to defund the BBC. He believes the BBC doesn't fulfil their brief to inform, educate and entertain, and it's damaging young people and their view of the world. Great to have you both on the programme. Rupert, why has the licence fee had its day?
Well, the BBC, the history of the BBC is under John Reith. As you quite rightly say, it was designed to entertain, inform, and educate with complete impartiality. That was its mandate. It was funded originally by a levy on the sale of wireless sets, and that's morphed into a state monopoly, effectively by the forced licence fee. I have to say, I never thought I'd hear myself agreeing with John Humphrys, but I agree with him that the BBC its time is up. A bit like Kodak, all great companies can outlive their useful life, and I think that's happened for the BBC. Equally, I do think there is an argument, as he made in his very eloquent piece, that we do need an absolutely impartial news service that informs the British people without any bias or any sort of influence from the meisters of woke, which the BBC has become. So, as he said in his piece here, that would involve a fee of £11 per taxpayer. Well, I think most people, if we were able to find the right formula, would be happy with that. But I think, as he says, technology, the young people now accessing all of the information on the internet or via their own favoured channels at a time when they choose to do it, has rendered, watching BBC News at 10 o'clock and being affected by the malign influence of the BBC, which has become overly woke. It fosters envy. It's anti-English. It was pro-Remain. I mean, when I stood for the Brexit Party, it did not reflect the interests or the views of the majority of the British people, as the vote confirmed. They're simply not fit for purpose. And as John says, I think everything outlives its useful life, and the BBC has done that. So it's time to defund it, maybe find some solution in terms of a completely impartial news service, but let the BBC stand on its own 2 feet for everything else. And if people agrees with their woke, warped views, then they can subscribe to whatever product the BBC ends up producing.
So, Rupert, just to clarify before I come to Paul, are you saying that the licence fee has had its day, or that the organisation itself should go?
Well, I don't agree with any monopoly, and I think the BBC has become a malign monopoly. I mean, most monopolies become malign in the end, so I don't agree with a licence fee which is levied compulsorily, despite the fact that many people don't actually access a lot of what the BBC produces. So I disagree with a monopoly. I disagree with the licence fee. And I think in today's world of the internet, of mobile phones, of access to information being widely available, then I don't see that the BBC has a role. It may, if it can convince government that it's completely unbiased, have a role in a news service. But that's very different to the organisation that we currently have. So I don't like the monopoly. I don't like the compulsory licence fee. I don't like the fact that if you don't pay your licence fee, you become a criminal and go to prison. I think it's a malign organisation now that's simply outlived its useful life. So I'm entirely in agreement with John Humphreys, which I never thought I'd hear myself say.
Paul Connew, what's your reaction to BBC lifer John Humphreys saying that the licence fee has had its day? Because, I mean, there are outspoken critics of the Beeb, including Rupert and the Defund the BBC organisation. But it's quite surprising to hear this from one of their own.
John Humphreys, I often disagree with, but I broadly agree with him. But in particular, his conclusion that BBC News and the BBC Current Affairs are vital to a functioning democracy. And he suggests, which I think makes sense, that we follow the German system in which there is BBC would be supported through general taxation or possibly some sort of hypothecated tax. And I didn't quite know where his figures come from, but they sound quite interesting. That with 30 million taxpayers in the UK, that if they were paid, and it would be based sliding, upon your tax level, but that if everybody was, even with a basis of at £11 a year, that in fact the BBC's News and Current Affairs budget, which is about 340 million per annum, would be protected. And I think that makes sense. I mean, I'm both a staunch defender of public service broadcasting, the BBC, but also a strong critic of it, having had, in the book I attack them very heavily, over the Panorama Diana special, and also over Jimmy Savile, in which I was involved as the editor, thwarted from exposing Jimmy Savile, and the BBC has serious problems, reputational damage. But funnily enough, when it comes to the crunch, polls show that the BBC is still the most trusted news organisation in the UK and probably the most trusted British institution around the world. So I think we've got to be very careful about writing off the BBC. My personal view is that the licence fee, like as John Humphreys says, has served the nation well, but I suspect that it probably won't survive beyond the next charter review in 2027. And I think that's when we might see emerging a hybrid that will involve maybe some degree, of you actually pay for some aspects of the BBC, the streaming, say, entertainment, Strictly Come Dancing, but that
it's all going well.
Should be protected. Well, gentlemen,
and still paid through, as I say, I think, as John Humphreys himself argued, through some sort of general taxation, as in the German system.
Yeah. Now, gentlemen, I wish we had longer. We've been upstaged by the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, who's speaking live from Washington in a couple of minutes' time. I wish we had longer, but we will resume this conversation, and I'm deeply grateful to both of you for your contribution.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.